Well, welcome to another session of Calm Under Pressure. I am John Troutman. I am the Vice President of Business Development here at Mind Club America. We're glad you could be with us today. If you're watching live, it's the fourth quarter. If you're watching this recording at some other time, again, we're in the fourth quarter and things are very busy, and a lot of people are running around and under a lot of additional stress or possibly placing more stress on themselves. We are excited to offer this time for you each and every Friday through the fourth quarter to help you better manage your stress, both in business and in life. Seeing a lot of familiar faces pop up and join this meeting. So I'll try not to let my ADHD kick in, but it's great to see a lot of familiar faces, and it's wonderful to add this value to you here today, each and every week. If you do not know who Mind Club America is, we are a one-stop shop for mental health solutions. We can bolt onto any plan. And for more information, I encourage you to reach out to me. I'll be glad to have that call with you. We offer many support services. There are online virtual communities, and our actual hosts today that'll be doing the presentation, Paul and Gail both, are heavily involved in trainings, teachings, helping people better manage their stress, and they are on the front lines of mental health care and mental health solutions. I am honored to be a part of that team. I am not a clinician, but I'll be learning with you here today at Calm Under Pressure. And without further ado, I want to turn things over to Gail and Paul.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gail. Thank you for joining us. All right, so each week we tackle a different topic, different thing that can cause us stress and anxiety, and we look at a couple of quick skills and tools that we can use to get ourselves into a calm, creative place where we can manage what's going on, even if we can't control it or stop it. And this week, we're taking a look at anxiety that often comes from changing marketplaces, right? Who hasn't been in a situation where all of a sudden there's a lot of financial change going on in the markets? Maybe your clients are pulling back and rethinking how they allocate their spending. Maybe your clients are looking at needing new products and services. Something different has changed with their customers, and they're now looking for different solutions and answers from you. That can cause us some stress and anxiety. And we're going to take a look at that this week and some quick tools that we can use to stay on top of our game. To get us started, I like to create a little space between our lives and everything that's going on and everything that we're thinking about and our time together. So I'd like to ask you to take just a minute and look at this image. It's one that brings me a sense of openness and release. If your feet can rest on the ground, just feel the ground beneath you for a little minute. If you want to close your eyes or if you want to look at this scene, please do so. And just bring your attention and let your breath slow down. Breathe in and breathe out. Notice if it's fast, which means we're kind of tense and anxious. Notice if it starts to slow down. And picture yourself standing by this pond. The air is cool and crisp. Maybe you can even smell the scent of the pine trees and the fresh earth. Notice that the trees are just there and they don't resist the wind. They bend and then they come back. And the water in front of you doesn't fight the ripples, it just lets them flow through. And as you breathe, just imagine that same ability to bend and return to center, that same feeling of letting it just flow past you, come through you. And as you inhale, feel yourself becoming clearer on what needs to be done. And as you exhale, try and let go of all the things that are pulling at you, the emails, the deadlines, numbers, quotas, worries. Just be in this moment. Accept this little bit of space and peace. And when you're ready, open your eyes and we'll get started with looking at some of the things that we can do. I hope everybody feels a little bit more space, a little bit of an ability to take a deeper breath, and our mind a little bit clearer. Okay, because the goal of all of these sessions is to help us those of us who live in a world where we're kind of getting inundated by chaos and requests and demands, and get us to a place where we feel more organized, more calm, and more in control. And today we're going to talk about how we can respond to these things around us that we can't control. I can't control my clients' timelines. I can't fix the financial uncertainty that may be out there in my marketplace. But there are things that I can do. I can first understand which of these things causes me to feel stress and anxiety. And then I can use some tools like catch it, check it, change it to help me manage those anxious thoughts. And not only that, but I can help reset my body because one of the things we're going to talk about today is tunnel vision and how that actually makes us less productive, less effective, and more prone to being yanked around by the winds and the storms of market uncertainty. And then we're going to talk about being able to prepare in advance for those stressors, mapping them so we can respond and not react. Anybody in this meeting ever felt uneasy before going into a client renewal call, or anybody upset or nervous or anxious after coming off a call or out of a meeting? Anybody ever had the desire to put off a call, a meeting, or a conversation? Anybody notice anything when you start to feel nervous and anxious? Maybe it's a thought that comes into your head, or maybe it's a feeling in your body. I'll tell you that my first thought is, I don't want to do this. And then my feeling in my body tends to be pressure right right in my chest, right in the center of my chest. Because when we get in a situation when we're confronted by something that stresses us, our body is the first thing to respond. We don't even necessarily think, but the pressure rises us inside of us. Our body responds by pulling in butterflies in the stomach, tension in the body. Our thoughts may start to move faster and faster. And we then start to narrow our focus. And we'll talk about this a little more. And as our focus narrows, you know what actually happens to us? We lose access to the part of us that can be creative and flexible and responsive and calm. And that's what we know. We know when we're at our best, we feel calm. There's a calmness. We may be moving really, really, really quickly. I know that some of my best work, I'm moving a mile a minute, but I feel calm and centered and relaxed. And that's what we're going to give you some skills and tools to work with to deal with the thoughts that come in. And the first tool that we're going to deal with is an awesome one called Catch It, Check It, Change It. And I use it. I'm sure Paul uses it, and Paul's going to come on. Paul, I'm going to let you come in and share this amazing tool that we can use anytime to help ourselves.
Thanks, Gail. Hey, everybody, and happy Halloween, happy Friday. So, this catch it, check it, change it is an effective technique for managing stress by addressing the negative thought patterns that drive anxiety and other unhelpful emotions. By consistently using this three-step cycle, you can actually build resilience and reduce the overall impact of stress on your well-being. Now, before we break this skill down, and we're going to break it down in a few different steps, I want to invite as many people to participate in either writing or thinking of each one of these steps as it relates to a past situation. So something that may have come up last week or something in the past. So step one is all about catching ants. ANTS stands for automatic negative thoughts, and they're an involuntary thought system that arise in response to stress, amplifying it, which often makes situations seem worse than they actually are. We can all fall into the trap of listening to these involuntary negative thoughts. The primary link between ants and stress is that these thoughts trigger the body's fight or flight response, leading to increased heart rate, muscle tension, and the release of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Now, there are many type of ants, more than what's listed here, but wanted to go over a couple of common ones. We have all or nothing, which is setting unrealistically high expectations or standards, leading to stress when those standards are inevitably not met. An example of this would be if this project isn't perfect, it's a complete failure. There's emotional reasoning, which is believing that your feelings reflect reality, such as, I feel completely overwhelmed and anxious, therefore my problems are completely unsolvable and beyond my ability. Next, we have the infamous should statements. These are rigid beliefs about how you or others should or must act, and should statements are actually a primary source of chronic stress. And what that typically looks like is I should be able to handle all of these tasks perfectly without any help. Um, should statements is an area that I fall into, like the should statement, and is something that resonates with me. Then we have mental filter, which basically means focusing on only the negative aspects of a situation while ignoring all of the positive ones. And this looks like even after a productive week, you focus only on the one task you didn't finish, forgetting about all the other accomplishments. And then I also want you to reflect on a past situation, maybe something that happened last week or the week before, and notice an automatic negative thought that produced. It doesn't have to be one of these four categories. It could just be any negative thought that was a direct result from stress. Step two, check it. Once an unhelpful thought is caught, the next step is to take a step back and examine the situation objectively. And what this means is questioning the thought's validity rather than just blindly accepting it. And some key questions to ask during this phase include, how likely is the outcome you're worried about? Is there good evidence to support this thought? Are there other possible explanations for this situation? And what would you say to a friend if they were thinking the same way? Now, this last one's a little cheesy, I'll admit. However, it does create distance and it provides a more objective perspective. So continuing with the following through with this exercise and checking it. So if you're reflecting or writing down on a negative thought that happened in the past, what is a way that you could check it? What are some questions that you could ask specifically for that ant? Now, the final step, change it, is designed to replace the original negative thought with a more balanced, realistic, and constructive alternative. This new thought reduces stress and promotes a more productive mindset. This step moves you from just identifying the problem thought and evaluating it to taking action, creating a healthier perspective that not only reduces stress, but promotes a better response habit. The key is to use evidence you gathered from the check it phase. And by actively engaging in this step, you are literally retraining your brain to respond to work challenges with more resilience and a solution oriented mindset. This will directly mitigate the impact of stress. An example of what this looks like could be change talk in the way of, this is a challenging project, which is an opportunity to grow and to learn new skills. I'm completely capable of figuring this out. Words have power and meaning, and the language in which we speak to ourselves matter. Just a couple of changes to verbiage can begin to have great effect. And I challenge everyone to try this between now and next Friday, just over the next week. Um, Change some of the verbiage and how you communicate with yourself, some of that self-talk language. And a really good example that I fall to that I really like is changing what if to even if, right? What if is so anxiety provoking. It's very much in the future, very much related to stress. What if this happens? What if that happens? Typically ends up equaling stress. And just changing that what if to even if provides a more mental preparedness and a proactive approach. So instead of what if something happens, even if this happens, right? Another one is changing have to get to. And what that could look like is I have to get this done. changing that to I get to get this done can have just a huge impact in how we approach situations and how our bodies respond. So, as you're walking through these steps with us and with me here, I want you to also think about so you've got this negative thought that may have occurred in the past week or so in a past situation. You've developed some questions on how you can check the facts for that negative thought. Now, kind of consider what that thought could be changed to. Okay, so this scenario listed on the slide is actually has been mapped out in each one of these slides, but I wanted to kind of just show it its an entirety to provide some flow, right? So you have the scenario of you have a long to-do list for the day, and I chose this scenario because it felt ambiguous enough that everyone can relate with this. The caught thought, I have too much work, I'll never finish everything, and I'll fail. Very all or nothing magnification, right? And a way to check that is asking yourself, will I never finish? Well, no, that's not accurate, right? You probably finish your task on most days. Um, a way to change that thought is you move it forward with the complete change in perspective and direction. I have a lot on my plate, but I can create a priority list, which is kind of a shout out to last week's skill, the 3 box method, if anyone was involved in that. So I can create a priority list, maybe using the 3 box method, focus on getting the top 2 items done, and I can communicate if I can't meet a deadline today. Now, this last part actually focuses on control and planning. And so you can kind of see how the catch it, check it, change it looks and works in flow. What's a unique scenario that you might have experienced in the past where you can catch it, check it, change it?
I can get us started, Paul, if that's okay.
Yeah, what do you got, John?
So I'll take it outside of the business realm to most people know that I enjoy working out. I'm no longer 18 years old, though, either. So, as a 55-year-old man, I just got frustrated one morning. I was like, man, I can't believe this. I'm not as strong as I used to be. I can't lift the weights that I once did. Then I actually looked at my arms and I was like, man, my arms aren't as big as what they once were. I can't believe this. I work out every day. Am I really getting that old? And it just started to spiral into all these other things that weren't true. And I use a biometric scale. So when I got home, I jumped on the biometric scale and I said, I want to go and see how bad this is, just so that I know how bad it is. And when I look back to the time where I thought I was stronger and I had more muscle, I had actually gained muscle weight since that time to that current time. I didn't actually lose it. So looking at those metrics and keeping track was very helpful to realize, you know what, I need to back things up with facts. So I catch myself on that all the time is, what does the scale say? As
Mm.
opposed to what does my mind say? And the same thing applies to the sales cycle. I use it in business as well, as opposed to how I feel about a prospect, how I feel about a long opportunity taking so much time. I go back and look at actually the metrics. So keeping track of data really is helpful for me.
Yeah, 100%. Checking the facts is so huge. It's easy to get swept away in an emotional reaction or believing that those thoughts are valid. And thanks, John. That's a great example of being able to have this negative thought, catch it before it spirals, check the facts, and then change it into a different trajectory. And again, by doing this, there's no perfect adherence, right? But continuing to have practical application in this direction will actually restructure the brain to be more resilient and to have a little bit more mental preparedness. I appreciate you willing to share that example there, John. So, Gail, I'll hand it back over to you. We've got some other skills that work really great with this and continue to help make you calm under pressure.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Paul. You know, the catch it, check it, change it is, it really was eye-opening to me when I started to explore how powerful it was for me to change my way of thinking. And I don't know if people here are going to really get this example, but when I had a time when I had a meeting, right? And my customer was multiple people from the organization were sitting in the room, and I was sitting outside the room getting ready to walk in and do a presentation. And typically before I go in to do a presentation, I'm usually pretty confident in my materials, but I was actually concerned about any objections or issues that my customers might have. And that was my first thought, my last thought as I was getting ready to walk into the room, and I could feel my energy actually coming down. I could feel myself being a little bit uncertain about, how I was going to manage the conversation and the flow of the room. I started double checking my strategy for who I was going to kind of network with and talk to when I walked into the room. And I felt unsure. And when I had learned this tool, I learned to say to myself, well, wait a minute. Okay, objections are challenging for me. And I know that. And it causes me to feel uncertain. And then my energy comes down. But you know what? I've been in so many situations where I've been presented by, pushback or objections, and I've done a good job in the past. So I know that I can come up with an answer, or I can research it, or I have a colleague who can get that answer. I know how to do this. And the minute I started thinking I know how to do it, and I'm going to walk in there saying, of course I know how to deal with this, I felt my energy level come up. I felt my confidence. I felt calmer. And I walked into that room. I wasn't second guessing anything that I'd done in my preparation for that meeting. So I just want people to try to think about a situation where you've gone into it and how powerful just changing your thought process can be, and how it translates into how you feel as you walk through that situation. So I love this tool. I try to remind myself to use it. And the key to remembering to use it is telling myself I'm going to practice using it. So I just want to leave that with everybody, because you're going to forget in the moment. But the more you practice, the more it becomes automatic to think it through. Another tool that I use as well is what I refer to as a stressor map. It has a whole bunch of other names out there. But the key is it helps me with my preparation. It allows me to prepare in advance for the things that are typically likely to knock me off and make me feel uncertain, unsure, anxious, or fearful, right? So I'm going to identify what these stressors are. And I don't know about you, but I actually have realized I have a bunch of them. I don't have just one thing that can make me feel or raise my blood pressure or cause me to have butterflies or that tightness I talked about earlier on. There's a number of things. And what I've done is figured out, okay, let's make a list of them. Let's name them. And what's the thought I have, right? That we talked about. And what happens to my body when I have that thought? And then what happens next? What action do I take because I'm nervous, right? Or I've had that butterfly feeling in my stomach. And what's the result of that? And then I use the tools to practice a new thought. And I write it down so that I have a map, so that when I'm walking into a situation, or even if I'm caught off guard, I can say, oh yeah, this is what did happen, and this is what's going to happen now. So let's take an example here where I'm going to walk in and have a performance review with my boss. Who loves the performance review with the boss? Yes or no? Your favorite thing to do in the world, or not your favorite thing to do in the world? Because my answer is not my favorite thing to do in the world. Some of us, it can be a stressor, right? And the thought, the situation, my boss wants to discuss my performance review. The thought is, I can see there's a bunch of things I didn't get done that he wanted me to do. And then the thought, I may not have driven as much value for the company as I could have. And my action could well be, well, maybe I'm going to put off that conversation because I don't know how to, I didn't do what maybe I should have done. And what happens when I avoid the conversation? My boss will probably get frustrated with me, and he'll probably think I don't really care about my performance, which isn't true at all, right? But what if I change how I head into that meeting? So my boss still wants to have a performance review with me. And my new thought is, I didn't do everything I wanted to, but I did have 3 really important wins. And my reaction is, I drove significant value with one of those wins, and I built value that's going to pay off down the future, and it's going to really reflect well on my boss. And so my action is I'm going to prepare my talking points to highlight those wins that maybe my boss has not seen or forgotten about, or that I had forgotten about and never talked about. And the outcome of that is that my boss might be a little more impressed with my performance and my preparation, and he might be reminded of things that he hadn't thought about coming into that review. Totally change the dynamic when I use this stress map. Write down what your stressors are. What's the thought you used to have? How do you react? What action took? And what was the outcome? And now take the time to say, well, what different thought could I have in response to that stressor? How would I then be able to respond differently? What might I do differently? And how might that change the outcome? Stressor map. Really, really cool skill. Now, the next two things come along with that because we change our thinking. But remember, we also represent our anxiety in our bodies. And the anxiety causes tunnel vision. And I want everybody to think about a fighter pilot. Now, in their case, the stressor of a target locks them into tunnel vision where they lock onto the threat and they use their training to defeat the threat. And that's exactly right. That's what their body is supposed to do. Tell them how to defeat the threat in front of them. But for us, in our situation, that same body response of narrowing our focus and getting us to lock in on one thing actually inhibits our ability to succeed, makes us less able to function, and we miss potential options and responses that we could have. So I'm going to give you two more tools, and these are going to help keep your mind open and help you overcome the tunnel vision that comes with stress and anxiety. And the first one is a 4-7-8 system reset. It was developed by Dr. Andrew Weil for situations that prove intense anxiety for us. And when you want to be relaxed and get a real break from that anxiety and that stress, we're going to use this. So I'm going to ask you to come with me on a journey for the next 3 minutes. And I'm going to have us do a breathing pattern 5 times. And all I want you to do as we do this is give me the time to do this with me and just pay attention to what you're feeling in your body. Just observe yourself as we do this breathing. Give it a chance, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. So it's 4-7-8. I'm going to count for you, breathing in for 4. So I want you to take as deep a breath as you can to the count of 4. Then I'm going to count for 7, and I just want you to hold that breath and let all that clean oxygen flow into your body. And then I'm going to ask you to exhale slowly for the count of 8. I'm going to do it 5 times, and I just want you to give it a chance and follow along with me. And if we're ready, you can look at this beautiful, calm picture, or you can close your eyes, whatever feels good to you. And I'm going to ask us to start our breathing now. We're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Last exhale, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And let your breathing come back to normal. And check in with your body and come back. Open your eyes if they were closed. Anybody have anything they notice about their body when they did this? It takes a little while actually for us to figure out how to inhale for 4 and hold for 7 and exhale for 8. I remember I had to practice it a number of times and I'd get confused. What it does is it gives our body space and time to relax. And maybe only start by doing it twice in a row and then building up the number of times you do it. Because with everything that we're going to show you and teach you, and we're going to repeat some things if you come multiple weeks, we're going to show you how to use the tools in different ways to handle different things that cause you stress and anxiety. And by practicing it, that's how we are going to bring ourselves to a place of being able to approach things with much less reactivity to the pressure that we're under. The second tool that we're going to use today that goes along with the breathing actually does some to release our muscles, but I don't know about you, but I hold my tension in my body. I hold it in my lower back, I've figured out over the years, and in my hands. And so the other thing that we're going to do is a little exercise that we can practice daily basis, once a week, whatever, that's a progressive muscle relaxation. And it allows us to get rid of that stress. All right. So I'm going to ask you to sit quietly in your chair. Give me a minute and a half and I'll walk you through this. Something that you can practice, you can do for yourself anytime. First thing I want you to do is I want you to scrunch your toes and then I want you to relax them. And scrunch your toes in your shoes, or if you're just in your socks or if you're barefoot, just scrunch your toes and relax them. And then I want you to squeeze all the muscles in your legs and relax. And squeeze the muscles in your legs again and relax. And now squeeze the muscles in your stomach as tight, tight, tight as you can and relax. And squeeze the muscles in your stomach and relax. And now pick your shoulders up and scrunch them up around your ears and relax. Scrunch them up around your ears and just let them drop. And now your jaw, I want you to clench your jaw tight and release. Clench your jaw again really tight and release. And now I'm going to ask you to take your eyebrows and I want you to raise your eyebrows right up to the top of your scalp. Eyebrows up as high as you can get them to go in your face and let them drop. And raise your eyebrows again as high as you can and let them drop. And now take one deep breath and let every muscle relax in your body. And when I then check in with each part of my body, particularly my stomach, which is another place where I hold my tension, I just feel the relaxation. And every bit of relaxation causes us to return to a place of calm and return to our creativity. So, what did we look at today? Some really quick, fast things that we can do when we're facing something that causes us stress and anxiety. the market, our clients. That's not under our control. But what I can do is calm my response. And stress shows up as a physical response to uncertainty. So, catch it, check it, change it interrupts the loop that causes us to have negative thoughts and negative reactions. Using the stressor map allows us to plan in advance for things that are going to perhaps trigger us to be stressed. Body calming, either through breathing or through muscle relaxation, allows us to widen our perspective and creativity. So remember, being calm is a competitive edge for you. Allows you to work through and be at your best. And I want to thank you for your attendance here. I'm going to hand you back to John. I encourage you to take one thing and give it a try. If there's something I can help you with, let us know if you have any questions. But let me turn it over to John. John, it's all yours.
Excellent job, Gail and Paul. I really appreciate you investing your time and everyone here today. I just want to remind everyone, if you have questions about today's session or you've got questions about a previous session, feel free to either direct message me or anyone on this call or respond to your email appropriately. If you'd like to know more information about Mind Club or what other solutions we may have, please feel free to reach out to us as well. We really don't want to take this time to be a sales call, but we want to be able to support you as well as your clients through their times whenever it comes to mental health needs. I just have one question for both Paul and Gail, if you could take that moment to respond. For a person who might be looking at these opportunities and saying, you know what, fourth quarter, there's just so much pressure. I just need to get through it. I just need to press through it and I'll deal with my mental health later. Because so much of what we're talking about can be positive, there also are side effects. And I'm going to refrain from giving my own story of burning out. But for that person who just, maybe it's just they've got a great work ethic, they're not necessarily trying to respond this way in a negative way, but if they're just saying they just want to plow through, what might be some words of advisory to them with not addressing their mental health through the fourth quarter?
I'll jump in and go first, if that's all right, Gail. So, if I'm understanding what you're saying, John, I would suggest that, well, one of the things that I know to be true is just dealing with it later doesn't always, it doesn't dissipate, it only builds, right? So, sweeping it under the rug, it still builds under the rug. And one thing that I've learned in my own personal journey is, you can use coping skills to push it aside, but you're going to have to face it eventually. And it's going to be easier. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, or at least that's how the saying goes, right? So it's going to be easier to process now than later. I'd rather deal with a snowball than an avalanche. And it's easier to process the little things as you go, and you build these tools and these skills to be more resilient and have stronger tenacity later on. So I think it comes down to, it's easy to put it off, but in fact, it's harder to put it off. It's easier to just go ahead and deal with what you've got in front of you right now to exasperate anything in the future.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Paul had to say. And for myself, you know, I think the big thing for me is, what am I missing by not dealing with it now? Because I know, because of what I do and what I've learned, and I spent years not knowing this, but because I know that when I'm stressed and anxious and I have tunnel vision, and that tunnel vision, I've learned painfully, means that there are options out there, there's opportunities out there that I'm not seeing. And so for me, it really has come down to, when I feel the key cues in my body that tell me that I'm stressed and anxious, when I have the negative thoughts, right, going on, the first question I ask myself is, what am I missing? And that prompts me then to say, okay, let me do a few short, quick things to get myself back to a balanced place, to deal with my mental health. And then I can answer the question, hey, this is what I was missing, right? So we all think that the thing that's right in front of us is most important and we've got to deal with it. And if we're doing anything other than exactly working on that thing, we're wasting time. But I would encourage you to say, what might I be missing? And how else can I uh, figure that out? And I'm glad you mentioned that because next week our focus is on burnout. And we'll be looking at, what does burnout look like? How do we recognize it in ourselves or in somebody else around us? And what are some tools and approaches that we can use to help manage that?
I just want to applaud everyone for being here today and for joining us. And again, just a reminder, we'll be here every Friday, same time, same channel. Feel free to invite others in your office, your agency, get them involved. It could be a great investment in their mental health. You never know the difference you can make in someone's life by encouraging them to be proactive with their mental health. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.